Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. At this point, the OKC Thunder have just 2 games left in the season, and they're 2 games that we're playing a lot of 10-day guys that really aren't part of the team going forward long term. So I thought now was a better time than any before the playoffs really get rolling to kind of recap this Oklahoma City Thunder season. It was one where I didn't have a ton of expectations, but still, I thought there were a lot of really fun things to talk about, especially going forward into next year, where if the talent level continues to rise, if guys continue to progress, this is a team that could maybe make a run at a play-in appearance. It's a team that really is starting to gain an identity, and so I kind of want to talk about everyone's performance individually and then the team as a whole. I'm going to focus on the young guys. I'm not going to talk a lot about the vets because they're really not the future of this team. I do want to kind of highlight a couple of them first. Kemrich Williams had a really good season before he went out for the year. He's a guy that I think is a great role player for this team long term, so I hope he sticks around. Same with Mike Muscala for all the same reasons. And then Derek Favors is a guy that I don't think will be on the team next season, despite starting a lot of games at center. I think Favors just doesn't really fit this team's timeline at the moment, so I don't think he'll be back. Those are mainly the vets I kind of wanted to focus on, but let's move into the young guys, starting off with the guys that were on the team last year. Kind of want to talk about their improvement from last year to this season, what I wanted to see from them and what I did see, and then we'll move into the rookies and talk about how they did. So, of course, starting off with this team's franchise player, Gilgeous-Alexander, and I think he did exactly what I wanted to see from him this season. He did start off kind of rough. That three-point shot took a little bit of time to come around. He came off of a foot injury that kept him not only out of the end of last season, but out of the Olympics, kept him from working out a lot over the course of the summer too. And so overall, I think it took Shea some time to find that rhythm. And especially when he got to the second half of the season, when he made it to like the All-Star break, I think kind of just he finally found his rhythm, and he was one of the best players in the league, period, after the All-Star break. He was putting up well over 30 points per game for a decent stretch. He was one of the best scorers in the league, super efficient. The three-point shot was falling at like a 40% clip. No one could stop him from getting to the basket. It was the Shea that we were accustomed to seeing last season, but even better. It was the best basketball of his career, and that is completely what I expect him to do going forward. I think Shea is capable of that on any given night, a guy that can give you a 30, 40, maybe even at some point a 50 ball in the course of his career, especially as he gets more weapons around him to kick out to, more guys that the defense has to worry about, because defenses were like keying in on him a lot. And even still, it didn't matter. He was still getting to the basket. He was still finishing left hand, right hand, scoop layup, pull up mid range, especially. That was a huge part of his game that I was impressed with this season. The 3-point shot started falling. Great playmaking. Shea's a guy that next year I fully believe could average around 27 points per game if he really locks in and is in rhythm from the get-go. Of course, that does also depend on who's around him. Do we bring in more offensive options? Who do we get in the draft? So that all is kind of tentative, but I do think Shea at some point in his career could get pretty close to averaging 30 points per game if the right talent is around him. I thought he had a great year, a lot of great moments. The shot against the Lakers from the logo where he said, "I'm him" afterwards. He had the game winner against the Los Angeles Clippers. He had that crazy shot against the Pelicans that should have sent it to overtime before Devontae Graham hit that ridiculous three, the longest one in NBA history as a game winner. It happens, but overall, just a great season from Gilgeous-Alexander. I thought he had a lot of cool moments, and I think he really solidified himself as a top 25 player and a player that this team can build around for the foreseeable future. Beyond Shea, of course, we had Dort, and Dort, I also think, had a pretty good year. His defense has never really been a question mark, but he really emerged as a second option offensively. He got a lot better. Really a lot of different varied looks for him. He was shooting more in the mid-range. His finishing at the rim was so much better than it's been in the past few seasons. It felt like he was finishing with a lot more finesse in addition to just the raw power that he has as a really strong guy, going into the body of defenders. One time I can think of especially against the Jazz, where a couple times he went into Rudy Gobert with like a power finish, and then later on had this crazy up and under move with a little bit of finesse. Things like that are exactly what I wanted to see from Dort. Just continue to get better offensively. The defense is always going to be there, but if he wants to become that legit two-way threat that I think he can be, it's all about that offensive consistency. Still the 3-point shot and just overall the shooting efficiency isn't quite where it needs to be, but he's been getting so much better, and I think, like I said with Shea, as more help continues to get put around this team, I think Dort's going to be asked to do a little bit less in terms of self-creation, and ultimately, I think those catch-and-shoot looks and kind of creating off of cuts and just a couple plays here and there, occasionally self-creation as well. I think Dort, as we get more pieces around them, he's just going to become more and more efficient, and he really proved that he deserves an extension this offseason, which he is eligible for, so I'm looking forward to him getting that at some point next year. Just want to continue to see the efficiency keep getting better. Next guy is Darius Baisley. Baisley last year had kind of a rough year. It was a year that it was looked at as he could potentially have a breakout season, establish himself alongside Shea and Dort as kind of the three guys going forward, and he didn't really do that. And this year, I'm not saying he did necessarily, but I think he did show a lot of promise. He showed a lot of reasons why you can be excited about him going forward, especially defensively. I think Darius Baisley, over the course of his career, is going to be a good defender. I think he's a guy that can really be a great asset to a team with some rim protection. He can guard in the perimeter. He did a really good job of contesting shots this year. Did a great job of blocking shots without fouling, which is a big issue for a lot of young defenders. And I think all of those things are super promising for Baisley. It's just a matter of, can he get his offense going? And while it wasn't great this season, still super inconsistent, it felt like there were more consistent stretches than inconsistent ones compared to last year. And so overall, I am excited about Baisley going forward. He still has to do a lot in that offensive department, but I think for right now, the defense that he has shown, it really is, I think he can be a valuable piece going forward, even if he never becomes super consistent offensively. But the key to him being a long-term starter and maybe even becoming a star at some point in this league is that offensive development. So that's really just what I want to see from him going forward. Poku is a guy that he had a really up and down season. It started really rough, and then over the course of this recent stretch, he was really solid. He was like genuinely a decent NBA player, and for a guy that has been such a raw prospect coming into the league, and even this season still being one of the youngest players in the league, despite being a sophomore, I thought he had a lot of really good moments defensively and offensively. Once again, it's all about putting it together consistently, which I think he can do going forward. That's really what I want to just continue to see from him over the course of this next season, is putting it together consistently, because when he does have good nights, Poku looks great. Poku looks like he could really be a great player in this league. It's just, of course, a matter of, can he put it all together? I'm optimistic. Playmaking flashes, scoring flashes, defensive flashes, whatever you want to say, I think Poku showed a lot of promise this season. Taiyo Maladon was the other guy selected in last year's draft in the second round. He had some pretty good moments in the second half of the season. I'm not quite sure where he projects on this team long term. I think he could be a good backup point guard going forward, but beyond that, nothing too crazy. He had some good stretches, especially in the G League. He really showed out, and then at the end of the season, he had a stretch of a couple 20-point games, so some good moments from him there. But overall, just nothing too crazy from Taiyo on this season. So, beyond those guys, I want to give a quick shout to Vic Krejci, who had a great season in terms of the role he was given. Just a decent shooter, and I really liked what I saw from him. Isaiah Roby had some really good moments down the stretch, and Lindy Waters is someone that I'm really excited for going forward. A guy out of Oklahoma, just a really solid shooter. He has a really pure shooting stroke, and I think that he's a guy that this team could really use going forward. Having Shea, Dort, Giddy, we need some shooters, and I think Lindy Waters can provide that. Finally, I want to get into some of like the rookies that we drafted. Of course, with the 6th overall pick, we took Josh Giddy, and coming into the year, I had decent expectations for him. I really just wanted to see how he and Shea could work together, what his playmaking would look like, and I think he did a great job of showing what makes him so special. He should be on all-rookie first team. He won multiple Western Conference Rookie of the Month awards. He was the youngest player to record a triple-double, not once, twice, or I believe it was 3 times by the end of that stretch that he had. He had the 28-point game in Madison Square Garden, one of the better playmaker, or the best playmaker in this draft class, period. One of the better playmakers, especially when you look at what he's working with. Right now, not a lot of shooters, not a legitimate lob threat. Once those pieces come around, I think Giddy's a guy that could average well into double-digit assists over the course of a few seasons. Giddy, I'm super excited about him. The shooting definitely still has to come around, but his free throw percentage gives me a little bit of, it just kind of encourages me a little bit that he will at some point become a decent shooter. He seems like a hardworking guy, and so I think he's going to continue working. A really smart player, great rebounder, especially was what I was really surprised about. Just his IQ all over the court it just really shows how smart of a player he is, and I was really excited by a few of the games that I saw with him and Shea on the court at the same time. Being productive, I think they're going to be one of the best backcourts in the league in a few years, so I loved what I saw from Giddy. Trey Mann, another guy who showed incredible flashes, scoring-wise especially. One of the most lethal step-backs in the league already. There aren't really many, if any, players in the league that get more space on their step-back jumper than Trey Mann does. He had multiple 20-point-per-game performances. He had multiple 20-point quarters over the course of this year, the only rookie to do so as I'm recording this video. Just really super impressive stuff from him, and he went from a guy that, coming into the season, many people kind of projected him as a potential six-man type player for this team. He now looks a little bit more like maybe he could be a point guard going forward. Maybe he still is really a microwave scorer, but to me, he kind of fits that Damian Lillard mold. I'm not saying he's going to be Dame, but I think he's a guy that really can create his own shot almost effortlessly, like a Damian Lillard, and so I don't know if a bench role is an appropriate ceiling for him. I'm really excited by what I saw from Trey Mann. He showed so much versatility, crossovers, dunking on guys, shooting threes from like the logo, 20-point quarters. He's just one of those guys that can heat up in an instant, and when he's on fire, it's really impossible to stop him. And over the course of his first season, where he kind of had inconsistent playing time here and there over the course of the year, that's super amazing to see from a guy in Trey Mann, who we got with the 17th overall pick. So I was super encouraged by what I saw from him. And then finally, Jeremiah Robinson Earl and Aaron Wiggins, both of them had productive seasons. I liked what I saw from JRE. I'm glad he got to start at the center for a lot of the season. He might be more of a 4 going forward, depending on who we get in the draft, but I think he had some really solid moments. And then Aaron Wiggins, as the 55th overall pick, really, really solid. Already got signed to a longer-term contract, which I 100% think that he deserves. Came on the scene, showed some promises of cutting, shooting, really just doing a little bit of everything, the smart defensive plays as well. I like Wiggs. I think he's going to be a really solid role player for us for years to come. So, as you can probably tell, I was pretty optimistic about this season. I think it went really, really well. Of course, like I mentioned, there were some things that I kind of wanted to see a bit more of, maybe some more consistency from a few players here and there. But overall, I was really happy with how this season went as a developmental year. Mark Daigneault, I thought, did a great job with this team, especially defensively. When you look at the personnel on this team, you probably don't imagine that we were a top 10 defense for a decent part of this season. Really before everyone went out at the end of the year, this team spent a lot of time from like the January to like March-ish area being a top 10 defense, which is super impressive, and it does speak to the effort, the way that he gets guys to buy in on the defensive end. And this is all without really a true center. If this team brings in like a Chet Holmgren in the offseason in the draft, this team is going to get really scary defensively really fast, and I think that is a huge plus for this team, getting that defensive identity, continue to bring shooters in, and I think you have a really good recipe for success in the long term with this core. So those are my thoughts on this season. If you are a Thunder fan, let me know what your thoughts were on the year. And if you weren't, if you watched a couple Thunder games, just let me know what your thoughts were on the different guys on this roster. I really enjoyed this season. It sucks that it's over. I'm looking forward to next year. Of course, you're going to see my reactions to stuff like draft picks, if we make any moves, the draft lottery, all the stuff like that. If you want to see that, make sure to leave a comment below and let me know, as well as leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate y'all watching, and I will see you all later. Real One, say it back.